Call the meeting to order. So we all, do the same pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Then can you call the roll, please?
Lori Collins here, Diana Johnson here, Tina Johnson here, Sam O'Neill
Here.
David Schrader,
Here.
Dan Zoltner,
Our boy.
Join the meeting.
Rick Wortman,
Here.
Mike Higgins,
Here.
Fred Yant.
Here. All right. Review of our agenda for tonight. Any comments or questions? Very all right. So this will be the first of multiple guidelines for public comment tonight. Just a reminder, this initial meeting here, this is our budget hearing. We will have the full board meeting after this budget hearing. Do we have any one who would like to make a comment at this time? All right, seeing none, we will close this session. Again, we will have multiple public comment sections tonight. So, item of business. Notice is hereby given to qualified electors of the Water County Unified School District. Board of Education will hold a budget hearing on Monday, October 28th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. in the boardroom, the Educational Service Center, 11 Dodge Street, Watertown. A summary of the budget is attached. Would you like to start with some introductory comments?
Yeah, this particular budget, this stuff we'll go into in detail, is a difficult budget. We are running again at a deficit for a second year in a row. Knowing that we had a planned deficit based on a referendum that passed some years ago. We're continuing to stretch those referendum dollars out, but it is getting more difficult. With that, Ms. Duncan will kind of take you through that process.
So I guess I will start by saying that a lot of information goes into creating the budget for the school district. And so it can be a little bit challenging to distill that down to a 10 or 15-minute presentation. So for the purposes of the presentation, I'm going to be talking about some of the higher level, like the bigger things. And then we're mostly going to be sticking to talking about Fund 10, which is the operation budget for the district, which is where the vast majority of funds go in and out. And then there is more information linked in the agenda for anybody who wants any more information about the other funds. So the first slide is going to be our first kind of big topic, which is student enrollment. So every year, the state of Wisconsin tells all of the public school districts in the state exactly how much money they can receive through the two largest pots of money, which is state equalization aid and property taxes. One of the big drivers in deciding how much revenue a school district gets is their resident student enrollment. And so this is a little history of the enrollment in WUSD. And we, like many school districts in Wisconsin, have seen gradually declining enrollment over the last decade or more. And this year was no different. So this year, our resident student enrollment declined by 101. So that directly impacts how much revenue the school district can receive this year. On a positive note, we have seen some growth in our open enrollment which is the good thing. And our head count was also down by 119. We can go to the next slide. This slide, I wanted to show those two big pots of money that we were talking about. So the first set of columns shows equalization aid for the school district. And over the last 4 years, overall, we've seen an increase in equalization aid. And that's just the reverse of whatever happens on the property tax side. So we see that the property taxes have been decreasing each year over the last 4 years. And I included the voucher amount here in the third set of columns to show that that amount has been growing. So the Fund 10 tax levy has been declining. The actual dollars amount to use for operating is declining even more than that. So this year, our Fund 10 tax levy is 14.9 million, but what is available to actually use for operations is 10.6 million. Then on the side, on the right-hand side, I have a history of those two put together, so equalization aid and the property taxes. And I put that over there just to show that if we look at 10 years ago compared to this year, we only see a 5% increase in revenue. Which I think we all know that our costs have gone up quite a bit more than 5%. The amount was higher in the middle because of that operating referendum that Dr. Burke was talking about before.
Sarah, good question. With the voucher amounts that are increasing, are the total number of vouchers increasing as well, or is it the amount of the vouchers that are increasing?
It's both. So the amount of vouchers is capped, and it's capped at 9% this year, and then it'll be capped at 10% next year. And as of right now, it only goes to 10%. And our school district has actually had students on the waiting list, so we're at the cap. But the amount has also gone up.
All right.
So it's a good question. We can go to the next slide. This is a comparison of the overall budget last year
Sarah,
to this
hold on a
year.
second. Tina?
Sorry, question. So if we didn't have the vouchers, would that money and those two like come to us?
That's a great question. No, we wouldn't get extra revenue, but it wouldn't be in the property taxes either, if that makes sense. So it makes up a part of our property tax levy for the school district. But that's a great question. We wouldn't get 4 million extra dollars.
What would be the approximate difference without a voucher program?
I actually have it in the slide.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I guess that would beg the question though, I mean, maybe the natural assumption is that if the program didn't exist, that those enrollments would come to the district. And that would increase the enrollment counts to the district.
Potentially. And I will say I did look, and it's hard, you don't get great information on the private schools, but their overall enrollment has also decreased. Okay, so this slide shows the budget overview from last year compared to this year. And so we can see that the mill rate drops to $5.99 this year. And I looked, and that is the lowest mill rate for this school district for as far back as the DPI keeps track, which is 1984. Our overall tax levy is declining, but just a little bit. So tax levy stayed about the same. The transfer to Fund 27, which is taking operating funds from Fund 10 to balance the budget for special education, is increasing. Our overall Fund 10 revenue decreased and our overall expenses increased. So that gives us a higher deficit for this year. So as Dr. Burke said, we're projecting a deficit for the second year in a row. Last year that came in at 3.2 million and we're projecting 5.4 for this year, which makes the fund balance 21 million or 21.4 million projected for the end of this year. And that would still give us a fund balance that's 37% of expenditures. So that is still a healthy fund balance. Go ahead. Here's a breakout of the revenues and the expenses in a little bit of a different way for our Fund 10 operations. So if you're looking over at our revenues, you can see that the vast majority of revenue is coming from state aid and property taxes. We do get some federal grants for this year. That's a little higher than normal because we're still spending down the end of ESSER. That number will be lower next year. And then the other revenue part, that includes anything else. So any state grants, any other grants, the payment that we get for our open enrolled in students, that's all in there. And then on the expense side, salaries, wages, and employee benefits makes up over half of what our expenditures are. And then that transfer up top at 12%, that's the transfer to Fund 27 that we talked about in the last slide. And then purchase services is a big category. And in there is the payment that we make for open enrolled out students or those vouchers for transportation. So some big expenses are in that pot that really we have minimal control over. I guess what I would say then is the rest of it, supplies. I left capital purchases in there, even though it says 0%, just to show how small that is. It doesn't even make 1% of the overall budget. So everything else combined is about 5% of the overall budget. Here's the history of our mill rate. So over the last 10 years, the average mill rate was $8.36. And as I said, at $5.99, it's the lowest mill rate the school district has had in at least 40 years. Then at the right-hand side, we have the last few years of the overall tax rate, and that has actually remained pretty consistent.
I heard this question recently. Do you know how much of that mill rate this year was actually directly affected by the increased assessment on property?
So the mill rate goes down because the property values go up.
Right.
Like that the taxes get distributed more, and the new growth in the district has been pretty small. And it's hard to get an exact number on that, but we had a 6% increase overall, like 6.5% overall, and maybe 1% of that is new growth. That's a good question. So it's mostly people's properties that they already own being assessed higher. And then here's the slide where I break out a little bit more about the vouchers. So I do this just to point out that of that $5.99, $1.26 goes toward school choice vouchers. So that represents about 21% of the tax levy. And then finally, as Dr. Brooks said earlier, when the district had their last operating referendum, a lot of people were really careful in planning. We also were impacted by the COVID pandemic, and the district was able to save funds through those years. So that increased the fund balance, and that is what we're now using to balance the budget. So now we're kind of on the other side and we're decreasing. So the fund balance is healthy for now, but we certainly can't sustain that level of deficit for very long. And I had a great question at fiscal, which is, could we just increase the mill rate to try and save more? And the answer, the short answer is no. A district can't levy any more than what is allowed under the revenue limit. So there's very little that a district can do to change the mill rate. And really nothing that you can do to raise revenue through the revenue limit, except for go to the community through a referendum.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate that. Board members, questions? Right. As this is a public hearing, we can open this up for discussion. If there anyone who would like to have questions from the floor, please, you can do so and approach the podium at the time. We will follow the standard procedures that we have for our normal comment section, name and address when you get up to the podium. I would ask you to, as this is about the budget, retrain any comments or questions you have to budget specifically. There will be other public sessions later on in the full board meeting.
I'm sorry, you're saying the comments tonight can only be directed towards the budget?
No, the comments tonight for this portion, this meeting, this is the budget hearing, can only be poured towards the budget.
That's
We will
great.
have the full board meeting, we will have an open comment section. All right, hearing none. I will declare this public hearing for the budget referendum closed, or budget hearing closed. And we will reconvene at 5:45 for the regular monthly board meeting. Preview agenda. Anyone have any questions? All right. So this next public comment section will be our first open public comment section. As always, with public comment section, I like you to ranging from the comments to 3 minutes or less. I will give you a timer. And please come to the podium, name, address. If you'd like to speak, who'd like to go first?
Oh, I will. My name is Jackie Ulm. I'm a retired pharmacist from town. NASA recently did a study on young children. The results show that children 4, 5, and 6 years old have a high IQ. They're creative, they're problem solvers, and they're brilliant. By the age of 7 or 8, a few years in school, those same children tested with average or lower IQs. What happened? In the 1980s, the medical and insurance industries created a new diagnosis code called ADD, or attention deficit disorder. The solution for this disease was to use uppers, or amphetamines, in an attempt to drug the children to help them to focus better. You know these drugs as Ritalin, Vyvanse, or Concerta. These are class 2 highly addictive drugs that are being used in children. A major side effect of these drugs is the loss of interest in eating until the drug wears off. Other major side effects are stunted growth due to that malnutrition, impaired decision-making, impaired mental flexibility, aggression and violence, stroke, and heart attack in children, convulsions. Now, interestingly enough, the latest insurance diagnosis codes have changed again to create a new disease called transgenderism, courtesy of Obamacare in 2010. Here's a little physiology lesson. The DNA contains the blueprint of your human body. The body naturally repairs itself to reach balance according to that DNA blueprint. The original blueprint of DNA in humans contains either the XX female chromosome or the XY male chromosome. So changing pronouns doesn't change the DNA. It's kind of like gaslighting. Changing hormones doesn't change the DNA. Changing the body with gender-affirming surgery does not change the DNA. The administration of hormones to children causes a condition that I can only describe as a war zone in the body, a fight between artificial hormones and the body's own intelligent design to be either male or female. Children who are exposed to Lupron, androgens, or other estrogen hormones experience untoward side effects. The use of these drugs is for life. By the way, Lupron is a drug used to castrate sex offenders. Side effects of these drugs include severe depression, euphoria, mood swings, stunted height growth, stunted maturation of genitals.
Ma'am, I'm gonna ask you to finish up, please.
Sorry,
I'm gonna ask you to finish up, please.
yes. Irreversible sterility in both males and females, a shortened lifespan, and increased risk of suicide. The effects of these drugs on children have lifetime consequences that are not being fully disclosed to parents and teachers. For a civilization to survive, our future is our children. I want to make America strong and healthy again. I want our future to be so bright because we have strong, healthy, mentally capable, and brilliantly intelligent children. I encourage you to recognize the corporate policies that make a profit on our children, our future. We need to protect and save the children.
Our next speaker, I'd like to come up next.
Hi, everyone. I'm just gonna fill out my info here. All right. Sorry about the delay. I'm just gonna read something here.
Yeah.
I would like to thank you for the areas. Oh, I'm sorry, my name is Tammy Fournier. I live on Crestview Drive.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I would like to thank you for the areas that you have chosen to respect by keeping the school values neutral, namely in the mission and vision statements. May I remind you again that the pushing of ideological values was backlashed against in the recent past, and may I also remind you of the signatures of the hundreds of Watertown residents who wanted to reiterate to you that they do not want political agendas promoted. The number is now over 800, and I have updated the file to add 90 pages. Please take note that we are not people asking to enshrine our personal political agendas or worldviews into the district. We are asking that you not enshrine into the district our personal beliefs nor the personal beliefs of 70 people who attended the strategic planning meetings. To go down that path would be to accommodate endless demands.
If you give to one group, then you have to give to the other and the other. Can you please, all people at once, you start down that path? I would like you to respect parents and respect families, and I'm asking you to move forward and vote for statements that keep our district values neutral. Because we are not a private school nor a homeschool, but a taxpayer-funded public school. Please keep the values neutral. Thank you for listening, and I have the list of additional signatures who would like to. Can I just-
To Lynn.
To Lynn? Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Any more speakers? All right, seeing none, we will close this public session as usual.
Family online.
As usual, we will have another one at the end of the meeting. All right, first item on the agenda is the announcements and recognition communications. We have our WHS student board representatives. And she is not here. All right, well, we will not have her present then. Do you have anything else, Jared?
No.
All right, moving on. It's a quick one. Strategic discussion. First item that we have up here is the early learning coordinator update.
Great. I'm gonna give it my best shot with the voice. And if not all the ones that were tea and honey, my cough drops, and Jared told me 3 minutes, so I will do my really best.
I said struggle to make it 3 minutes.
It's fun, but I had too many slides. So as you look at the slideshow, when it comes up, you know that I intend to kind of just cruise through some of these pieces. Some of these pieces were used to request the additional dollars from the foundation. And so we will cook right through these and hopefully have a little bit of time for questions. As you know, at the start of the school year, we did hire an early learning systems coordinator. Kayla Went accepted that position with a half-time position. Mid through some of the dollars that were given to us from DPI with the mental health grant, and also some special education dollars. The reason we went with that, and Kyler, you can scroll through the slide, that first slide. As a part of an analysis of our data from our earliest learners, we did find that we were creating our students who were in our 4K program who were multilingual learners. We're showing some significant progress. We noticed that we were having continued challenges in literacy for our students with disabilities. We are noting an increase in referrals for our youngest students. And I think noting also some overall concerns about social emotional challenges for our youngest learners and kindergarten readiness. The next couple of slides just go through what some of that data looks like. And so I don't need to go through each one of those slides specifically, but I'd be happy to meet with you if you are curious about that data. It just is the data behind the information that I have in that first slide. As a team, we came with our working hypothesis that optimizing our pyramid model practices, and as you know, pyramid model is the framework that we are using in our 4K programs to support kindergarten readiness, specifically with some of our social emotional learning skills. Also, shifting our self-contained 3-year-old classrooms to a more inclusive setting. And I should note that this has been a very collaborative project. This is not a Gen Force project. This is a real team effort. But if we shift those special ed course classes into more inclusive general ed classrooms, we'll see an increase in literacy skills and kindergarten readiness for students with disabilities. And also expanding access for pyramid model classrooms for students who are bilingual or English language learners would increase our kindergarten readiness for students who may potentially have language barriers, and also reduce disparities in that kindergarten readiness between families that are English speaking, who are not English speaking at home, or using a different language at home. So as you know, Kayla Went stepped into that position. And what her roles and responsibilities are outlined here in this slide. So really helping us focus on our data for our youngest learners, I also acknowledge that the school board has made a significant investment in our full day 4K programs, and so we want to ensure that what we're doing in our 4K programs is really making a difference for our students when they enter kindergarten and as they continue through our system. She's acting as the pyramid model internal coach for our early childhood and 4K classrooms. She's responsible for helping us expand some of our preschool options. For our 3-year-olds who are in special education, working to help ensure that we're enrolling all students and also students for English language learners, or students with disability into our early learning programs. And then supporting teachers who have students with social emotional behavior. As I mentioned previously, half high position is funded through that Wisconsin TPI school-based mental health services that were sent to each district in the state in the special education funds. And we read a grant that was honored through the Greater Watertown Community Health Foundation to increase her to full-time. And I will just tell you, the first month of the year, she was half-time. We heard amazing things from our 4K teachers and early childhood teachers. And just a huge celebration, and I will almost say relief from our teachers that position will get expanded to full-time. If you know Kayla, she was working very hard during that first month of the year, even though she was only part-time. So essentially, we have 4 tactics that we are employing with her position. First of all, like I mentioned, that data analysis, pulling together a team so that we are managing our data, so we make sure that we're tracking the right data over time to ensure that our investment in our earliest learners is paying off. The next piece is that she will be helping with pyramid model implementation. The third piece is increasing the opportunities for inclusive 3K or for our special ed and early childhood learners. And then specifically focusing on our students for English language learners and ensuring that we are enrolling them and giving them an opportunity to participate in that. So far this year, in the first 2 months of the year, she has completed TPOTs and goal setting with all of our 4K teachers. And I asked what a TPOT is. It is an observational tool. I don't know what the first T stands for. I should know, but Pyramid Observation Tool, or the POT, where she goes into each 4K classroom, spends about 3 hours observing in the classroom based on the pyramid model pillars. And then she sits with the classroom teacher, provides feedback, and from there does a goal setting conference with them. So she's working directly with the teacher to set goals on the 4K classroom environment. And then she follows up with them throughout the year and does another TPOT in the spring to track growth over time with the implementation. She is convening our data team to ensure that we're tracking the right data. She's beginning to work on the inclusive 3-year-old classrooms, networking with other districts, and meeting with our early childhood team. She supported professional development in the 4K with pyramid model and as well as our literacy. And she has been incredibly visible in all of our 4K classrooms to provide individual students. And I have a last slide here. If there are any questions.
I did have a question as far as, we see a lot as far as like supports, for kids who maybe aren't, who are in 4K, who, don't quite have those readiness skills and things like that. But what about the kids, I know we talk about growth for every student. So like, what about the kids who are performing at readiness level or above the readiness level? I mean, we all know that's a huge gap, to be able to accommodate and things like that. So what is being done on that end of things?
Certainly, great question. Knowing that the goal of the Greater Watertown Community Health Foundation is really focused around kindergarten readiness and ensuring all students are ready for kindergarten. We focused the position specifically in helping ensure that we have all students ready for kindergarten. By all means, however, students who are engaged in a high quality pyramid model classroom have opportunity.
Join the meeting.
have an opportunity, for every child within that classroom setting. I will also say in our early childhood classrooms, our 4K classrooms, play-based is like a key piece of it. And the pyramid model, if you look at that team, like really requires a lot of student choice within it. And so that students can be engaged at the level that they are. So some students may be, working in a play-based environment with their classroom teacher to just really learn, beginning sounds or letters, or even how to go on with friends. But then that teacher may notice that a certain student is really engaged with literacy and is able to start, doing, really like basic writing, and so can work individually with that child to encourage that. And because so the play-based models choice, I think it really meets the needs of sort of that wide spectrum that you can be already in a 4K classroom, because you're exactly right, Tina, there is wide spectrum, you can 4K when they first come to us. Yeah. Good question. Thank you.
Jenny, I'm gonna say slide 3 or whatever, the one where you have the stats. I don't know if you put up for Kyler can. You have, I'm gonna say two groups, which is the multi-language learners and then the students with disabilities. What's the control for this? Where do the students fall who are not in either one of those two groups as far as obviously you listed here as 19% and 50% and 27 and 54.5. I don't want to say what's average, what's typical, what's our goal, or do we have that information?
That's a good question. This is where you wish you had Kristen Weiss right next to you. I believe that the benchmark is specifically, I want to say like the 40th percentile. So what you're looking for is that I believe, but don't quote me on that, and I can find that out.
Okay.
She also looked at, and this is why it's important that we have to pay the team working together. She also looked at like just sort of like the overall WSD students who were in those grade levels as well.
Right.
And I can ask her to pull that data. But what I will tell you is that the multilingual learners who were in one of our WSD 4K programs were far outpacing students who were not.
Yeah, 50% here.
And
Yeah.
we're very close to where we expect all students.
Okay. If it's, I know you sent me the preview of the Ed Services agenda, which is next Tuesday, and I don't think that's been issued yet. I sent it to the committee for review. If this is something that you can give a follow-up on the slide, have Chris pull something together on it for Ed Services, just as part of the director's report. That way we just have I'll call it a control group, just a not at risk or a not special group, whatever you want to call it, just so we have a data, we can kind of understand what Taylor's trying to shepherd this, and maybe that might capture some of Tina's questions too. A lot of those kids would be in that group as well, the ones who aren't on this slide. I know it's not a focus of Kayla, but I'm interested just what the norm is.
Great.
I just was curious, how would the Act 20 changes impact this particular position?
So, good question. Really specifically, 4K is a an assessment space, and Jason Bull has been working to train our third grade teachers at our 4K teacher training taking closer to ones that are going to that process. We are not required by law to train our 4K teachers, the same thing we're required to train our grade teachers. However, we felt it was really important for them to have access to the same content, but more specific to their age level. So the 4K teachers are taking a course called Keys to Beginning Reading, I believe. I'm gonna get it wrong. There's 2 Keys courses. One is intended for early childhood and one is intended for kindergarten through 3rd grade. And they are engaged in the one that's for early childhood, even though we're not mandated by state law to do that. I think it's incredibly important, and what we're doing when we're looking at our literacy materials, as we're going through that adoption process, that whatever we're doing is continuous from 4K throughout our elementary system. And that's been a key question that we've been asking the vendors is what does this look like in 4K? Some of the vendors don't even have an early childhood program. Some of the vendors have a very fleshed out 4K program. And so we are watching that because we know that what our 4K teachers do make a difference when it goes into 5K. And we also know that early intervention is key. So though we're not required through Acts 20 to address a lot specifically in 4K besides the assessment, it is something that we feel really, really strong about. That's a great question. Thanks, Greg.
Other questions? Same.
I've got a couple. Yeah, on slide 2, you talk about some of the social emotional challenges for I think it says youngest learners. And I don't want to, I know you've got some strain on your throat right now, so I'm not asking you to say much, but could you give me a brief explanation of that in a little bit more detail?
Yeah. So sure, I think what we're finding is sometimes it's a student's first or I shouldn't say student, child's first school experience. And that can be challenging because it can look very different compared to what potentially they were doing in their home environment. So supporting those students as they transition away from whatever they were doing previously into the school environment. We believe strongly in that home and school connection. And so our 4K teachers work really closely and hand in hand with families to help kids make that transition into a 4K classroom. And so that's, I think, what we're seeing on the thing. I do think there's some, I don't know what the right word is, rejection that some of the changes that during COVID that some of our kids were going through, they had less opportunity for like social interaction. And so sometimes for kids, when they move into school age, that's, we're maybe seeing some, I know there's been a lot of conversation about speech in particular. And so I think that's sort of what we need.
Okay, thanks, I appreciate it. And then one other question, I think this goes down to, it's either slide 11 or, yeah, it's slide 11. You know, when I was in school, it made quite a strong positive impact on me to have an integration in the classroom in elementary school and in high school, of kids with IEPs and kids who didn't have IEPs. That ultimately influenced me and kind of where I went in other areas of my life, with my career and things like that. However, I do think that people have a common concern, not in that area specifically, but in the increasing of class sizes that tends to divide the teacher's attention more, and students who do need, I would say students that need more assistance or time with the teacher than other students, they end up receiving overall less time. So when you're talking on slide 11 about increasing the quality of instruction, while I think that there are definitely advantages to that, what's the consideration that you guys have given to the further increase of class sizes by bringing in students who do benefit from an additional, you know, a higher level of teacher to student interaction?
So first, it doesn't state that we are decreasing the quality, right, of our instruction. Typically, right now, we have 2 students who have an IEP that do receive special education services and supports, and there would be 3, 4, maybe 5 that would not. That peer model is what we call it, is for students to be able to see what it looks like, sounds like, and feels like for neurotypical children to behave or to learn in different environments. The special education teachers, and there's 2 of them that do our early childhood programming, are leading the way in this by making sure that all of our minutes, our services, and our supports align with every child individually. Those are absolutely going to be met. But again, it's going to be in an environment that is inclusive and not segregatory, or providing segregation for the students, because we do believe fully their increased learning, empathy, the play-based models, the instruction that's going to be provided to all of our students who are in that program is going to be outstanding. It currently is outstanding for our EC kids that happen to be there, but now we are going to open it up. And when we put this out as a potential pilot, taking a look, the feedback from the families was huge. Where can I sign my kid up? Because it is free for them. And it's that 3K class that people are looking for that they've done in other districts such as Lake Mills and Johnson Creek and all sorts of stuff. So this is going to be really good.
I asked, actually, I laughed because he said the parents were really excited. I shocked because the teachers, I thought it was the teacher.
The parents are excited, the teachers are excited, the parents are excited.
Yeah,
It's
and I
good.
think when we think about our 3-year-olds, our current model is that those students are only students with disabilities in those classrooms. So we will be bringing typically peers into.
Thank you.
And it's not a big class. We're talking 5 kids,
Sure.
6 kids total.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for the specification.
Other questions? Hearing none. Thank you, ladies. We will go on to our next item, the strategic plan and marketing material adoption.
So we have Lori Miller here from the Donovan Group. Jason's not available to be here this evening. But certainly Lori is here to update and continue the discussion that was had in planning. And if there's any other questions, I'm here as well as the people from planning who saw a lot of the information. So Lori, it's to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me here. Grateful to have this opportunity to be in person with the team. Tyler, we're gonna forward the next slide. I'm gonna do this, right? And we need to do that. So our purpose tonight is, it's been a while since we've talked about the strategic plan here as a group. And so we want to report out to you where we are with that process. We want to, again, present the main components of the plan and outline the next steps that we need to take to move forward with that implementation of the plan. We want you to feel comfortable to ask us any questions and we'll work our best to provide answers. But ultimately, we are seeking your approval to continue to move forward at this point with this as our strategic plan. Next slide. So again, why is strategic planning important? You all embarked on this process. Something drove you as a board to say we need to go through this process for our school district. And I believe it's just a really great opportunity to bring people together to talk about our why, our students. And all the school districts I've worked with across this country, I would say that the amount of engagement around this process in this community was significant. And we saw that with the community engagement process. We saw that with the focus groups that launched this process. And each of our planning committee meetings, we welcomed anybody who wanted to come through the doors to participate. So what's beautiful, I think, about where we are in this process is that you have a plan draft that really finds common ground with very varied opinions and perspectives and values. But ultimately it's collective, like we're here for our why, our students. So that strategic plan provides intention for moving forward with continuous improvement. It'll help decision-making here for the board as you have to make decisions along the way, like around budgeting. Moving forward, it helps set specific actions for progress. And ultimately, it'll give you an opportunity to monitor, are we having success with what we decided with our community members, what's most important? And if we're not, then we need to reevaluate and adjust so that we can reach our goals. Our journey has been a shared journey, not only with your internal people, with externals as well. And so what we did is we assessed the health of the district. We looked at all the different kinds of things, what's working, what's not, opportunities, and what are some potential threats to the success of the district. And through that process, we developed a new mission, a new vision, our core values. We tried to really seek understanding about what is it that our students, our staff, and our facility needs. We determined priorities, and from there we set goal action areas. So our mission, we landed on. Remember that the mission is to answer these 3 questions. What do we do? Who do we serve? How do we serve them? Next slide. Where we landed is this is our new mission statement. This is our why. This is what we do today. We serve our students by providing educational opportunities to promote academic excellence and a lifelong love of learning. So when we have people see this mission statement, we want people to understand what we are about here at the Watertown County Unified School District. Next slide. Our vision is where we're going tomorrow. Where do we want to see ourselves 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road. And our tagline for this that's really framed a lot of our work is Watertown is a community full of tradition. And Watertown is a community that is really prime for innovation and transformation. And by transformation, we mean changing. We're always changing and improving upon ourselves. So with that, we see ourselves as inspiring learners with student-centered education strengthened by the involvement of the community. Right, so that's our new vision. From there, we identified our core values. And next slide, Tyler, our core values, we landed on the top 5 with our large group. Those 5 are empathy, honesty, integrity, perseverance, and respect. You can see the definitions there. And with these 5, we want to instill these values with our students, with the work that we do through our strategic plan. But we also want these to be the values that the adults who are serving and working with the students also exemplify. Next slide, Tyler. Our priorities are, you can kind of think of as pillars or the foundation of our strategic plan. And we have 5 that came out of our work with the planning committee. The first one is focused on students, right? We really exist to inspire academic excellence and ensure that our students grow. The second one is focused on our human resources, our staff, and everybody that comes together through the walls of the schools to support our students, all in team. The third one is focused on the connection to the community. And that includes communications and engagement that we do with the community for partnerships. The fourth one is focused on allocation of resources and being really intentional about that. And then lastly, the innovative use of our facilities. So we want to have innovative facilities, and we also want to be innovative in how we are using our facilities. Next slide, Tyler. So when we pulled it all together, we have a strategic plan. And here is an example of the poster of the plan. Now, this is where we start to get into what I think the language that we're using here is marketing the plan. Really, it's marketing the school district. And so here you just see a nice visual, right? This is designed by the production team about here's everything that we just talked about, our mission, core values, our tagline, our priority areas, and you see visuals that try to capture that. The intent of this particular document is just it's just a constant visual and reminder, this is our strategic plan. Next slide. The heart of this gets deeper when we start taking all of those priority areas, defining what that means, and then defining the goals, and then lining up all the strategies that we're going to take to be successful with our goals. And so that's the work that's been happening since the last time we talked as a board. So I think that was August 26th. Your internal team has been working really hard to take the work of the community and the work that you said, yes, let's proceed and move forward with this. They've been taking it and implementing it. What does it mean in action for our students and our staff? So if we go to the next slide, you can see here it's tiny, but you have copies of this too. The internal team has defined what do we mean when we say goal areas? What do we mean when we say for math? What we want to see is that we want to see student performance in math increase on our statewide assessments. Same for literacy. We also identified areas for post-secondary preparation in both worker certifications and credits, like students can get credits through advanced placement coursework. They can also get credits through dual enrollment. And then lastly, core values. It was important to the internal team that core values is a part of our plan to make that available as well in terms of instilling those values in our students. Next slide. From there, the team has worked to take a look at what is our baseline data in each of these areas. Okay, so you'll see here just a glimpse of the work that the team has done around 8th grade math and 3rd grade literacy or ELA, English Language Arts. You use those grade levels to be consistent with the state accountability assessment system. That's where the state places the most emphasis in holding school districts accountable for student performance. And so you can see that the team has backward mapped to where we were with our performance in 2021, 2022. In relation to the state for each of these years, coming up to last year, 23, 24. And then they set goals moving forward. So for this year, we like to see that at 49.8% of proficient and advanced in math increased to 51%. And then so you can see for 25, 26 up to 53%. And so now you can kind of see how that works. Typically, we'll get questions like, well, how do we know that that's enough growth? That's the importance of monitoring the success of the strategic plan. So these are initial targets right now. At the conclusion of the 24-25 school year, let's say we hit 62%. Then when we're going to raise our goals, most likely we're for 25, 26 and 26, 27. So that's the importance of using the plan to help you guide forward. Next slide, Tyler. We also did the same work around the secondary preparation. So you can see here the data around worker certifications and goals that we have set over the next 3 years. And the same for credit accumulation, whether it's through EP or dual enrollment. Next slide. I'm not going to walk through this, but I want to show you visually that this is the same information, but in our chart, the team has been working to map this and grid it out. So if we move to the next slide, Tyler, what they've done is they've taken those 5 goal areas, matters, literacy, certifications, credits, and core values, and they've lined them up against the 5 priorities. Remember, the first priority here is inspired academic excellence and student growth. So what are some strategies that we're going to deploy during the 2024-2025 school year that gives us success with our math goal? Same for literacy, same for certifications, credits, and core values. Just focused on student growth. So there you can see the work of the internal teams listing out the strategies that they will use to make sure that we implement that plan for success. If we go to the next slide, you'll see that we did that for all areas. So here you have all the team. So that first left-hand column strategy are all the strategies aligned to math that we're doing with our human resources. What we're doing for literacy in the second column, again aligned to our human resources. And here you're going to see things like provide feedback to help our staff grow. You're going to see things like the survey, an engagement survey to see how our staff feels about the work that they're doing and how we can improve. You're seeing things around comprehensive educator compensation model and also just professional development as we move forward in the other years. Okay, next slide. So again, same format now. If I jump to the middle column for strategies, this is the part focused on connecting as community. And you can see here that I believe we're having BERC briefings as town hall meetings coming up. And so again, this is all aligned to what we heard from our community as important strategies to move forward and have success with our goals. Okay, you have a copy of this. So we can continue on, Tyler. Just wanted to illustrate how that works. So let's talk a little bit about communications, or what you all refer to as marketing, the tools to help roll out the communications plan or the strategic plan. So if you move forward to the next slide. Over the past couple of months, with your support, we've provided the district with a number of tools. We've done things like news releases, newsletter articles, working on the poster, fact sheet. Here's another version of the fact sheet as an infographic. Right now, we are in the month of October, and we've done like slide deck templates for the district to use in terms of sharing out the strategic plan. We're doing the same for social media graphics. What's coming up next, and it's really important to have your approval on the plan to move forward, because this is a huge investment, is we're creating 2 pretty significant tools. One is called a kinetic typography video. All you need to know about that is a really fast-paced video that's intended to promote the school district while also sharing the main components of the strategic plan. So it'll share the highlights and points of pride of the district. And you can use it to not only share your strategic plan with those outside of the district and win, but also to attract new individuals and new families to the district. The second tool that we're creating in November is a promotional flip book. And maybe just, it's like a brochure or magazine, if you will. And it can be printed out as hard copy, but it can also be hosted on your website as electronic copy. And the idea behind the flip book is it lies out the strategic plan with a lot of detail. So you're gonna see all the definitions, everything, all the goals, all the strategies, all the targets, all the data, along with promotional material that again highlights your points. Why is it important that your child comes to the Watertown Unified School District? What do we have to offer as value add to the Watertown community? So that'll be a nice promotional piece that you'll be able to use for many years to come. And then as we move into the latter part of November and get into December, we'll start to shift our energies towards creating tools that are used more on an internal basis for you to implement the plan. So the first one is the staff reflection tool, which Margaret asked for. And I hope it's okay to call you out Margaret, but I thought it was a really good strategy. And we've done this for other districts where we've created a tool that helps your staff see where they fall within the implementation of the action of the strategic plan. So it helps them kind of walk through the plan and figure out what impact do they have so that their work and their arrows are going in the same direction as the plan is intended. And then we also work to create a online monitoring dashboard so that your strategic plan can be visual to your community and staff at all times to show the progress. Are we getting closer to our targets? And you'll be able to have reports out here about whether we're getting closer or not, or if we need to adjust and maybe double down on some strategies, or we need to adjust our goals because we're having great success. And then lastly, we will support the school district too with building an action plan that your building level principals can use to again make sure that their school improvement processes are aligned to the goals and actions of the strategic plan. So lots of things are underway. And we go to the next slide. One of the things we heard from planning committee is that there might be value in having one document that has everything on it. So this is my attempt to do that with our production team. You have to look at it as a trifold. So on the right hand side is actually the front, right? And in the middle is the back of the trifold. But essentially this trifold is a piece that could be used that has the main components of your strategic plan. It definitely takes you to your webpage, which has all of the details with that QR code. And if you flip to the next slide, Tyler, this is what the inside of that trifold looks like. It just gives you the definitions. It gives you the definitions of what we mean when we are talking about each of our priorities. And it also gives definitions of what we mean by our goal areas. It doesn't have anything more than that because there's no room. And it's really full document. And so that's why that flip book is going to be really important to put together, because that's where we can share every piece of detail that's aligned to the plan. So next steps, we would love for you to consider and take action tonight on the plan. That helps us continue to operationalize the plan and move forward. What you have at your tables is just another version of the same information, because Mr. Bull likes it like this. He's very sequential, right? So we created it this way for him as well, but it's the same information. And then also we'll continue to develop those designs and communication or marketing materials for you and continue to roll those out. Next will be progress reports. And it's my understanding that your internal team, your leadership team has already been working to operationalize the plan and have been having really good discussions about that. And so what's great about that is they're going to be poised to come to you fairly soon with giving a progress report. How is that going? And allow you to monitor if it's being effective or not. Okay. So that's my spiel. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Board members, comments, questions? Hearing none?
Oh, Tina has one.
Oh, sorry, Jeremy blocked me. You gotta be more vigorous.
So I know this came up like a few months ago, I think it was, and I know I had asked a question about like the mission, vision statement and things like that, like, is that set? And so, I have to apologize because I have not asked about it since and have not provided, another option and things like that. So, but seeing that this was on for, tonight and things like that, so is all of this set? Is there still room for those kinds of modifications, or what does that look like? Or where, I don't know if I missed my agenda or not.
So I can share with you, two things. Actually, I'm gonna share three things. One, as we started the process, whether it was, through just, our survey comments, meeting with staff, having those initial meetings or having our community-wide meetings. We've had over 120 some people in this community give you feedback. And at each point in that discussion, I said, this is for you to give feedback. And it's our board's responsibility to come up with a finalized plan. And your job is at any time that you feel necessary to, as you monitor this plan, make adjustments or ask us to help make adjustments through that process. That's always been your goal, right? It is always a responsibility of the board to set the strategic direction for our team, right? The feedback that you got is really, it's great and very important to recognize a couple of things during this process that I think were amazing. One, not only did we get all of that feedback, but your ability to sift through that and try to come together and bring the various views of our community together in a document that supports and gives us direction. I think we have an amazing start in that. I think that lays out into the goals and all of the information that follows. Because I truly do believe that you tried really hard to work together to bring those goals together. Secondly, the amazing team that this school district has, not only in the leadership of Jason Bull and the central office staff and all of our other administrators in our building, but the staff and all of their feedback that they put into this. We're ahead of schedule, everybody. We had an aggressive schedule, but we are 2 months ahead of schedule. We were planning on having this completed in December. And so not only from the initial start, through all of those discussions, but to where we are now, I think we have a really good product that was put together. But to answer your question in the blunt, you guys have total direction. You can change it anytime you want. Just realize that gives us the runway to have to go back to staff and talk about, do those changes that were inspired by the board now change any of the goals or any of the structure that's been put in place, so that we can then tool and move to follow that direction. So again, you have total reign over that as board.
Other comments, questions? Hearing none, we will move on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is like bringing it all together and, things like that, all the different pieces and very visually appealing.
Next item up is the referendum discussion.
Okay, so I don't have anything specific for you on paper. This is just a discussion between the administrative team and the board around where shall we go. A couple of things that you need to know that the subcommittee of planning as well as the fiscal committee have reviewed and put together. We know that our school district has been going on a journey for some years. We know that a previous referendum helped build us up some reserves, some fiscal decisions that we've made to be very lean in how we operate has put us in a position where we're in two places. One, we're in a place where we're operating as lean as possible, but still not able to fit the daily bills. Okay, which means we're going to be at a $5+ million operating deficit for this year. That's coming out of that fund balance that really helped us with the last referendum and some really lean decision making that we've done. However, we can't cut anything else we're at a point where it's very difficult for us to make more cuts. We've deferred maintenance, we've deferred professional development, we've deferred curriculum costs, and we've even slimmed down staffing where we could. Recognizing that in some of our areas, our population has increased in special education as well as EL, and those are higher staff need areas. But we are continuing to try to do that. But because we've deferred maintenance, at some point in time in the near future, we're going to have to talk about how are we going to fix things like this parking lot up here and other things. When you only have about $400,000 as the maintenance budget for 7 buildings in a year, that doesn't even get through the day-to-day stuff that we have. And it certainly doesn't plan for large fixes like roofs, heating and air conditioning and holes and repavement of certain things. So we do know that that's coming. But we also know that a higher priority for us is just to continue operating. Like I said, not only can you not fix those things that need to be fixed, but if you're not operating to meet your daily goals, we're gonna have to think about things like cutting programming and or changing what we are offering for students and certainly possibly slimming down staff. And when I mean possibly slimming down staff, when we talk about approximately $6 million, we're talking an economic impact to the city and our region of laying off 60 to 80 workers. Okay, and so it's not just the impact on the students, it's also the economic impact that we're really facing as we move this school district forward. So in having those conversations, a pathway has risen to the top, and we want to know that we're on the correct pathway. And if tonight you share that we are on the correct pathway, what I will do is I will instruct Sarah Duncan to work with our attorneys to develop some ballot language to bring to your attention in February to go out to a referendum this April, in April of 25. The pathway that we're looking at is to do a $7.5 million continuous referendum, meaning that it'll be recurring in nature year over year. The reason we've asked it to be recurring year over year is because we find ourselves in a position where in our last referendum, that sunset 2 years ago, we were able to build up money, but now we're spending. And if we were to ask for that same amount of money, it wouldn't be touching what the bills are because the bills have increased with inflation, year over year increase or costs on things like staffing, transportation, you name it, electricity, everything's gone up in price. Everything will continue to go up in price. So even if we go out for another referendum that was the same, we would still be in a deficit year over year. If we increased it to today's budget and we went out for 5 years, right, we would still be planning a deficit and having to come back. Matter of fact, in a recurring one, we still will have to come out and ask, should the state stay on the same course as they have been funding our schools? It's just when we ask in the future, it'll be a more affordable ask than something like $11 million a year. Okay, so we're asking that we go on a path that can help correct for the last 10 years that you saw with Ms. Duncan saying, you know, our revenue has only gone up 5% over 10 years, I believe is what you quoted. Our expenditures have gone up way more than that. And to the extent that we need to make sure that we keep pace, this is the ask that we're going to have. Net impact on the mill rate would be about 70 cents per thousand. Okay. So that's what we need to be sharing. And where we think we need to be going, at least from a subcommittee, a referendum subcommittee position and a fiscal committee position. So I just wanted to state where we are and open it up to discussion, and we're looking for any kind of direction that you would give us.
Greg?
The number that you had cited, or Sarah had mentioned, over 10 years, increasing about 5%. What would that be if we were to take into consideration the level of, you know, just a common level of inflation of 3%? You know, would that be
I don't have that number off the top of my head, but if you look in the budget booklet that was attached with the presentation, there's a graph that somebody at the state made. And it shows that roughly a school district would be receiving about 3,000, I think it is, or 3,200 more per student had the state followed the CPI for increases over the last, I'm not sure how far back it goes on the graph.
And I will tell you, if we were receiving that, we most likely wouldn't even have that to go out for an ask. Thanks.
But Craig, is your question, is the forecast or the 7 million Jared speaking to, or what Sarah put in there for any type of, inclusive of any type of inflation assumption? Or is that the question?
Well, that's actually another valid
Another way
question.
to ask it.
Yeah,
I assume, Sarah, that you have inflation built into your future budgets, and you built in how much inflation or operating costs, or.
Yeah, so.
I know you did it for wages, I don't know if you did it for every single gasoline and maintenance and et cetera.
Yeah, and so again, that 7.5 million that we would be asking for, covers, operating, but it also gives us a little buffer for about 2 years, 2 to 3 years.
Right.
Then for the next 2 years after that, we're kind of on par, and then we start losing ground again. We do have a sufficient supply right now of fund balance to help us take this out. We're hoping about 8 years before, or 8 to 10 years before we make another ask. We're hoping, that's on the operational side, we're hoping within that timeline, we will be able to go out for a capital referendum, fix some of the capital needs, and maybe even restructure our district so that we can run more efficiently.
And you also coop some of the costs that we have right now.
Yeah, and maybe or maybe this at 10.
And I'm still not sure if this answers Craig's question, but what I'm hearing you say, Jared, is the inflection point. If there's 2.5 years of having taken in more with the referendum than 2.5 years being even, if about 2.5 years where we're whittling it down because we've gone upside down on it, that does have assumptions in it for inflation. It does have assumptions in it for declining enrollment. It does have assumptions as the best that we can do. It's not just taking today and saying it's going to be this way for the next years. It has several assumptions. Those assumptions can be played with, and Sarah, you play with them, I'm sure, all day long in your spreadsheet.
It's a lot of guessing, especially out past 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Because every biennium, we have a new biennium budget. We're putting in, like historical type numbers for revenues too.
Sure.
Because those are our best guess as to what may happen in the future with our state, funding schools. And so those are the things that we've looked at. But again, I just want to remind the board, this is a 2-step process. We absolutely have to go out and ask for the operational dollars, or we're going to totally change programming. We'll have to, because we can't operate, without a fund balance. Secondly, we are working with PRA to develop ideas, and PRA will involve the community about how do we get into a more efficient model. And that's the next phase of where we need to go. We're talking about a phase plan that will be over maybe even the next 15 to 20 years, right? As we look at how do we move into a more efficient model and what other operational referendum may happen. I projected another operational referendum should this one pass in another 8 to 10 years. Okay, just trying to put everybody on a path so that our community knows how we're trying to react to that. Certainly, if we don't need the amount of money that we're projecting, we can always under levy. So even if they give us the authority now, say 5, 6, 7 years down the line, we don't need that authority. We can always under levy, and we have done that. We did that actually my first year here. We under levied because we knew that the city had a need, and that they were going to have to do a full levy based on the assessments. So we under levied to help the general taxes to bring that down, right? And so certainly we could do that again in the future if we need to.
Craig.
What is the something that you might have or that one would be concerned that for year we just seem to see 10% increase in enrollment and
So I would say that, not every school in the area is saying that, but the majority of schools, including private schools, are saying that. This trend is mostly a big price trend, where our list is. For instance, if we were in this city where we were out the outskirts of a major metropolitan area, like closer to either Milwaukee or Madison, certain areas are trying to look different. But for our schools our size, and our type of location, it's just a more of a birth thing. So we have this mission study from Amherst offers, and I'm sorry from Amherst offers is the company. And in that study, we've got drafts to that study. Good draft. It really does talk about birth rates. And we starting to see just a little bit of it in birth rates. But they jump at the same level of incline that we've had in the past to get us back up to those capacities that we've seen even in the last decade. So it may help to moderate the loss a little, but it's certainly not going to all of a sudden take us in a super incline, at least with today's information. 5 years down the road might be a totally different discussion.
So I'm trying to wrap my mind around it too, but would it be safe to say that perhaps maybe the decline in enrollment is also, we've been allowing us to, make the adjustments that we have needed thus far, but we know that the rate of inflation and the cost of education has greatly outpaced, those kind of declines.
Well, and with also the decrease in enrollment comes a larger decrease in revenue than we've been able to cut to get to that. So there's those conflicting interests. It's similar to, some people saying, well, if we just increase our open enrollment that will solve all the issues. And my response to that from an economic standpoint is an open enrolled in student isn't the same count as a regular student. We want regular students because we get the bricks and mortar as well as the instructional dollars. On an open enrollment student, we get the instructional dollars, but we're still having to pay for all the bricks and mortar, right? And that goes on our taxpayers to pay for every other student coming in from their tax base to ours. We only get their instructional dollars. We still have to maintain our facility. So it's almost more expensive to have an open enrollment student come in than a regular student because we get more revenue.
Comments, questions?
Jared, you said attorney, do we work with the attorney for crafting it, or is it, because I think of Baird, and Baird is let's just say the thought leader or a expert in this, and they know, do a referendums pass better in November or April? Do reoccurring pass better than non-recurring? Do operationals go better than capital? Do you want to pair it up with a gubernatorial election, or do you want to pair it up with a presidential election? And they have these stats. I've seen the document. How does that inform? I assume our consultants have that information as well. It's not Baird. And where does that say yes, now's the time, or does it say we have a better chance in April, or we got a better chance in November? What are the odds? What are the bookings doing?
So we worked with Baird to craft our policy, right, to determine what it is we were going to bring to our subcommittee as well as the fiscal and now to you. So we have that direction. Should you say, yes, that's a good direction in consultation with Baird, in consultation with the subcommittee and the fiscal committee, yes, you have our blessing to move forward. Our next step is to work with Quarles and Brady, who does ballot language. Okay. And they will work hand in hand with Sarah and Baird to create the ballot language that is necessary to explain to our community what it is. Then our next step after that is to make sure that we form through the subcommittee some kind of mechanism to help communicate that out to our committee, our community. And so those will be the next steps that we work on.
Tina?
Okay, so I have two questions. As far as, when you're saying it would be a 70 cent per thousand for mill rate increase, is that on top of the current 599?
Yes.
Okay, okay, so it's already low for that, and then it would be adding 70 cents per thousand. Okay.
First, presentation resolution, I mentioned, it's at 599 below the past 40 years.
Okay. I think for, for people to understand, when we're taking a look at that and things. And then, I mean, I understand we're looking at operational and then, you have facilities and that's, those are two, separate things. But when I'm thinking about, okay, we need a community member and, going out for referendum and, kind of like Craig said, okay, so we have declining enrollment. So if we have declining enrollment, and I get it, the state doesn't give it as much money and things like that, but you have declining enrollment. Why do we still all have these buildings open? And if we were to, I know it's different than personal finances, but when we are needing to be personally responsible, it would make more sense, like, okay, well, we need to shift all of that because we're not filling all the buildings. I mean, we know that. And so why would, it's not 5 million, but why would we not make some of those moves almost like a good faith effort to be, what I'm saying, the ones who are thinking.
That's why we engaged PRA with facilities today and to really look at what can we do within our operation to be able to do those things and to get to that. We're going to try to make a commitment as an administrative team to come in with a budget for next year that $500,000 cut from current operations. Should the referendum not pass, we'll probably have to make larger cuts than that and restructure a little. Closing at least one, if not two elementaries, moving some students to the high school, and reconfiguring our elementary spaces to allow for some of that for it to happen. Should it pass, again, that just gives us room to have a much larger, deeper conversation with the plan instead of just forcing everybody in. Because if you look at some of the studies that PRA did, our elementaries are at capacity with where we have people right now. They're at operating capacity. Webster has some space in that operating capacity piece. If you look at some of the work that PRA and offers has done. And high school has some capacity. Those are the two buildings that really have capacity without restructuring the buildings. So again, we would have to take some of the middle schoolers, put it into the capacity at the high school, and use our remaining capacity at the middle school and Webster to accommodate most likely Lincoln because of our smallest number of students in each building, right? And then restructure from there. So does that make sense? I mean, we have plans, but again, part of it is to know what our community is saying, because if the operational referendum passes, all it does is it gives us time to have a better plan with, to go back out to the help to see if they can support that and then move into that more strategically than to just force it.
I can see, that side of it in my mind. I'm thinking, okay, well, do those cut off first, or you know what I mean? Those come together.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure that we don't impact the quality of what we're doing with what we're.
Right. I mean, obviously, it would change things, obviously it would change things. And so I think, just making sure we're very clear about, that kind of thing. Because it's difficult things to understand to be able to, support that.
And the community, the community would say that we do those things first and then come back and ask, right? That's the power of putting it out to.
Thank you, Stephen. What I was gonna say, that if you do something like that, the consolidation, that's super just things. It's not just as easy as, oh, let's move a couple here, a couple there. You move the middle school to the high school now, that whole concept with middle schoolers and that teamwork. That's all shifted. You could have potentially families that are running to 3 buildings instead of 1 or 2 now. There's a lot of other, one domino shift here, impact in a lot of things, so.
Yeah. And that's why I want to be very communicative about, we have a basic process that we're trying to do over a number of years to get to where we need to be, not only budgetarily, right size our budget, and be more efficient with how we use buildings, but also to do that in a way that protects our programming and look at, making sure that we're serving everybody the way they would like us to serve them. They certainly could say no. Ford did, and they had to cut a whole bunch of programming, cut staff, and now they're operating within what their community, at least spoke of. So.
Thank you.
Craig?
As far as an educational piece on the referendum, I'd be curious to see what was our staffing levels 10 years ago, compared to today. And that might tell a good story too, that we were cognizant of these changes and, we made adjustments to them over time as well. So.
Why?
Making its way around the table.
Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, a quick comment. I think it would be helpful. I've received a number of questions about the way that this would work and how it relates to the changing amount of per pupil revenue, I could call it. How that relates to the ending of the COVID aid that ended in September, I want to say, the COVID relief aid.
Yeah, $6.
Yeah, as well as the Evers did the line item veto to increase the capacity, the amount of revenue that's brought in by, like, I want to say 325, 375 for 400 years. But I think that having some of that information in there as well would provide, some clarity, and that would help with a good faith communication with the general population.
Sure, I mean, for communication strategies.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right, there's nothing on the agenda as far as we're meeting tonight, but I'm hearing a general acclamation from the board for them to move forward with this, to provide us something in the November timeframe.
Yeah, if we, I mean, I can't promise work from other companies, but we're gonna engage with Quarles and Brady and bringing back possible ballot language for passing. And again, I'm sorry to you and the community that I have to bring news that we need to continue to go out and ask. I wish our state would tier schools. They're sitting on a large surplus, and they certainly could have put more money into the public school sector. They certainly could do it for the cities or counties or a number of different entities. And I'm hoping that at some point in time, we have a way to fund all education in our state at a better and more affordable rate for our taxpayers. So sorry that we're in that position.
All right, moving on to our next items, reports. First, which is the superintendent's report.
All right, hang on to your hats, because there's a lot in this one, only because there's so many excellent things happening in our district. And as you can see on the screen here, we have an alphabet parade at Schurz. So this young lady is supporting her letter, the letter E, in that parade. It was just a great thing for us to share as a starting slide. Next, we have a number of celebrations. We honored our distinguished alumni, Miss Mullen, and she was honored at a luncheon like we do for all of our distinguished alumni each year at the homecoming day, parade day, and she came to the prep rally and then was recognized on the varsity football field later in that game in the evening. So congratulations again to Mrs. Mullen. She is a great leader in our community,
has done a lot for students and education. That's just the sector she's in. She is an outstanding alumni. I want to celebrate Lincoln STEM. They're receiving an award called the STEMI Award. That's to this Wednesday, October 30th, at the 21st Annual STEM Now Conference. That's going to be held in Milwaukee. You can read there what it's for, but in the sense, it's with their connection with the PTO and partnerships in the partnership category for our strong connection with our PTO and working on the STEM programming and providing STEM learning opportunities for the students in Watertown. So congratulations to Lincoln and our PTO for working together to help our students grow. Another celebration where history takes flight. We had Melissa Lampe, who's here in the room, talk about and work on an art department partnership and art installation to create some life-size geese for display around Watertown. To kick off the event, she did a program that talks about how we became the Goslings. It's interesting, a little YouTube connection there for you to watch the video. But I just want to say thank you because not only is Melissa Lampe, our communications strategist, but she also chairs the Historic Society here in town and has a lot of great information based on the history of our town and our mascot. And so it's a really interesting video for you to watch. And the students working together in our community to support our mascot this way through art is amazing. So congratulations on that. Opportunities. We had a lot of opportunities in the last couple of weeks for our teachers to grow. I shared with you one of the things that we have been deferring a lot has been professional development. That doesn't mean it's all ceased, but it has been cut back dramatically. But we did have some really good time to be able to get some really good things out there for our staff. They're all listed here, anything from Sages at Elementary, Wisconsin Farm Bureau, all of those are there for you to review. But there are really great opportunities that that we've been working on. This one happens to be an opportunity for LEAP to engage in a workshop. They created the workshop for all sorts of other school districts to be involved in. Those people from other districts came and helped make classroom programs for their extensive knowledge and planning in agricultural education and environmental education lessons and resources for them to take home to their school districts. And here are, here are some other opportunities. I'm out of order. Here are some other opportunities that our staff engaged in. Anything from Ames Web training to literacy training, other module work that they did on nonviolent crisis training and other things. So a lot of staff opportunities there. eCampus and their students went on a field trip. Yes, sometimes our eCampus gets together face-to-face in IRL, real life, right? To engage in things like field trips. They went to the Horicon Marsh, took a boat tour, explored around and hiked the Storybook Trail. It was an excellent opportunity for our eCampusers to get together, again, in real life. Another opportunity was our area Chamber of Commerce worked with our middle school. They held an annual career exploration day this past Wednesday for 7th graders. Area leaders got together and shared an overview of their businesses. Happy to say that we also as a business participated. So we shared what it's like for students to understand us as a business, not just us as their teacher. And so I want to thank Lynn, you and Sarah for going to do that from our HR department. Sarah Miller and Lynn are excellent with the students, and we got great feedback that theirs was one of the favorite things that they went to it and thought about. So I really appreciate that. And then, want you to know that there are some Burke briefings coming up. I didn't name it, but I will own it. And I will tell you that, these are, again, briefings on topics such as strategic planning, the facilities work that we've been doing and are continuing to do, upcoming referenda, and where we're going. Again, that was discussed here a little bit tonight. Some of the partnerships that we're engaged in, whether it's some of us, as you saw in the summer, went to Bobcat down in Johnson Creek and took a tour of the facility and worked with them on continuing engagements with our CTE program. We had some middle school counselors go, myself and Jesse, or working with these businesses and our group downtown, and trying to just get in and see them. For instance, our CTE coordinator, as well as some teachers, went on a tour of the hospital. We took some middle schoolers to the hospital, which I heard was very exciting for them to see all the number of students go through. And just working in collaboration with our Great Health Foundation and other foundations like the Education Foundation, talking about celebrations just like you hear today, all the wonderful things that we're doing. A reminder that November 5th is time for you to get out and vote. There's no school on November 22nd. It's the end of trimester for high school students. That's high school only. November 25th through the 29th is Thanksgiving break for everyone. And our committees and board schedule are accelerated earlier in the month because of that break. So just take a really good gander at the committee and board meetings, just so that your calendar lines up with those, because they are different than any normal month. And so if anybody out there wants to see when our committees are happening, they're not on the regularly scheduled Thursdays of the month and whatever else, because Thanksgiving break is in there. We tend to change it up when we have those breaks. Any questions? Sorry, I know it's a lot, but man, there's so many good things. We try, I mean, that's paring it down. Seriously, it is. Yeah.
Is that correct, that policy is gonna start at 7 and not 7:30?
Yes, I believe so.
Because typically planning goes 2 hours, because we only meet every other month.
And we change it.
I didn't know, I just didn't know where that came from.
Yeah.
So.
And you do what you do, for each person, sometimes we bump it into 5 o'clock, but.
But we haven't had that communication prior, so it's next week. I mean, that's the only thing that, because it's next week already, that would just be the only thing.
Yeah,
So,
I'm just
I'm
just going with what was set by committees. So, if we need to make changes, bumping up the planning committee earlier instead of 5:30, we can bump to 5 or whatever else, but that's under our purview.
We can shoot for it, I just. Yeah.
I mean, if we have to go to 7:30, we haven't even talked about it yet, but. Yeah.
When we need to have this posted.
I practically sleep here, I don't care.
I just,
Thursday.
90
All right,
minutes might be
so
tough,
we
just make it a little bit later.
Yeah, but two on the by Thursday.
Okay.
And then let Lynn know.
We can certainly do that.
Some rest for tonight. All right, first up, are reports on committees with the Ed Services.
Ed Services met on October 8th. All committee members were present along with distinguished guests. We had 4 or 5 topics on the agenda. One was revisiting the assessment calendar. That's all the testing that we do, making sure that we're not over or under testing. We're getting value from it. We had a science update, really amplify science, but before that's implemented, the staff has identified all gaps. So I'm just from, let's say, grade 6 grade or 8th grade to 9th grade. Maybe you forgot to tell somebody how to background for higher molecules. So they are looking to fill those gaps. Amplify is fully implemented. Ready, set, go occurring this year. That was implemented originally around the time of COVID, but again this year attendance was in the 92 to 96% range for parents coming to those conferences, and pretty sure everybody's getting a fair amount of value out of that. But given that it's still, just one of those things we want to talk about annually, and we will continue to do that, even if the commissioners at service meetings, point into that as well, when it's all gets developed, later this year. Ms. Lester, I guess it's dog. That's, maybe you got rid of the dog, right? It was at your house. The summer school, was presented on, there's going to be a change, Jamie Peppa was the former, school director at step down. I think that for the most part, summer school met, what it intended to do in the, summer of 24, but, probably not exactly where it wanted to be, yet, and so once that new coordinator is on board, we're gonna try to push for right word for it, making sure that we have our ducks in a row by the end of this year, so that we have everything except for next summer, so that Margaret isn't caught off guard, but we have to staff it. So this will be the revisit of the in-service committee, but at the same time, we're still looking for clarity on it. They did put together a mission statement. If there's anybody who wants to weigh in from the full board, who goes through that services, appreciate it. And then lastly was a library media plan, which was, let's say mandated, it's called the Future Ready Library Plan. And that is going to result in a resolution later on tonight. All the documents that were presented there are also in the board docs for the resolution. And I did email the data, and I'll say it up here publicly, that had to be the best presentation I've seen so far, given by staff. It was on point, it was at the right depth, right from the board, and it was back. They did great. Adjourned at 9:19, 9 minutes past our posted time. So, pretty good.
Next item, fiscal.
Yeah, so, fiscal minutes, over 23rd, and anyways, everybody was present, don't do the same thing. We also had some guests, we talked about purchases over 20,000, there was work replacing and relocating a condenser unit, at high school. Shield price was present to explain the difference in 3 quotes, and we recommended moving forward with Moss. Moss was a little bit higher, than the next quote in line, however, it had a better, better warranty, and it also gave us a refrigerated trailer to use. So there's really no service disruptions, right? The second item was just information only. We'll see a cost over 20,000 for educator effectiveness. But this is reimbursed through the educator effectiveness grant every year. We talked about the preliminary budget. Final amount has been received by the district. So the revenue limit worksheet is complete. Equalization aid is certified. Final equalized property values were received. And the third Friday in September, student count is all.
Ian Pilak. Joined the meeting.
Student membership decreased by 101 FTEs. Overall fund 10 revenues increased by just shy of 13,000. No other changes to the budget since the last meeting. So it came to the full board. Ms. Duncan also presented the slide deck that the subcommittee of the planning committee saw at its last meeting. The presentation laid out the expense increase year over year. You guys seen some of that tonight. Revenue comparisons as well as the historical mill rates and tax levies for the district. The subcommittee recommended moving forward with $7 million recurring operating referendum at the April 25 election. Fiscal committee recommended moving forward to the full board in October. Albert Street, we had a discussion on the Albert Street property. Dr. Burke requested guidance from the committee as to how to proceed with relisting the Albert Street property. Discussion took place as the three options stayed with the same firm and broker, stay with the same firm as new broker, or with RFP. The committee talked through the different options and ultimately left the decision to the superintendent. As far as planning calendar, we will provide an updated S3 and we'll discuss the operational referendum at the November meeting. On the monthly reports, Mr. Workman stated that he would like to see more information about the building level budgets and what each building is spending each month. And the business office will provide, that information. No further business. We adjourned at 7:09.
All right. Human Resources.
All right, we met on Monday, October 21st. Let's see, high points, of course, we have the consent agenda. And you'll see that on our resolution tonight as far as that goes. A calendar work group. A subgroup of us have been diligently working on, the staff and the group and Margaret have been diligently working as far as options are concerned. And so we discussed about the different options. When that information will be coming back to HR committee in November. Any questions or comments or input that other board members have, certainly feel free to send that to me prior to the HR meeting so that we can, incorporate that information as well. We got a coaches evaluation system update from Mr. Kep. As far as he did 18 coaches evaluations last year. It was a pilot program we were working on, and we will continue to follow that again for this year, and it will, continue to be evaluated as far as if that's a good program there. Succession planning for administration. If you go back to the committee meeting, there is a very nice document that was provided as far as there's a planning template for administrator roles to be able to continue. We wanted to make sure that information and history and things like that are recorded as far as that's concerned. We went into closed session, and our future meeting planning and our action items include the calendar work group, a learning leaders proposal, and exit survey process. Our next meeting is November 11th, 5:30.
All right, planning.
I luckily have 3 summaries to share with you because we had a subgroup that worked, a subgroup worked with fiscal. So myself, Mike Higgins, Fred as president for the referendum stuff that Dr. Burke presented to you earlier today. Secondly, there was a subgroup of Dan and myself working with the board evaluation survey that hopefully everyone completed by yesterday, because that then was shifted to our facilitator for our board retreat. So multiple reminders were sent out. Hopefully everyone got that taken care of. Thank you for doing that. And then lastly, at our overall meeting, we discussed briefly the superintendent check-in, which happened earlier this week. Brief update on the board retreat, but the majority of our meeting was spent on the strategic planning portion of it, which we heard earlier in the meeting today. So lots went on, but you've heard it all before, so check done.
All right. And finally, policy.
All right, we met Wednesday, October 9th. All committee members were present. When it came to our discussion about transgender guidelines, administrative guidelines regarding transgender students. Board member Sam Alino was a sponsor of the transgender administrative guidelines, which he brought back the latest draft that was written from the September committee meeting. And the request was made that this administration, Sam and district legal also collaborate to help develop a draft that is more consistent with draft B. The committee reviewed further changes. Director Burton, the legal counsel, as well as Sam made to the draft since September policy committee meeting. So the committee will leave it so that there will be hopefully another staff are not trying to come together. Basically a policy that the committee can potentially recommend for board, review and approval potentially. And that was hopeful. That discussed in the August and the actually in the September meeting. Question was raised about the need for overarching administrative guidelines or some sort of parent policy to overarching policies and guidelines. And there had been this particular guideline in place for the last six years, which is still in place. The district will continue to operate under draft A with the vision of parent notification and until such time as a new policy is legally adopted. We continue to, Lori brought up a question in regard to policy 3431 regarding employee leaves. Specifically around when does that start? So touch of time, trimester time, and that factoring a little bit needing certification. That hopefully it's a meeting you see it for the this particular meeting first report over it make that on that list at this time or not. So we also went through the next group of 12,000 policies for professional staff. There was only 4 of those. So we went through the 4,000 group 3. And the meals policy 600 group 1. So it was a total of 41 policies that the policy committee brought forth for first reading for the particular meeting tonight. It was the transgender support and administrative guidelines will be discussed at our next committee meeting, November 6th. Tentatively at
7. Consent agenda, which includes our minutes, committee summaries, personnel staffing, approval of bills, and first and second reading of policies. Lynn, I'm not seeing an attachment here for the first reading of policies on the agenda.
Are you looking at the right one?
Is that under administrative? Those in the administrative section?
No, I actually called about that today, and I was seeing something different too.
Yep.
But I don't know.
They're there.
They are there. I'll take your word for it. I've not seen it here and I could be not logged in. Who knows? All right. So can I get a motion on the resolution 9344 consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by David, second by Diana. Comments or questions on the consent agenda? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Lori Holland.
Yes.
Diana Johnson.
Yes.
Tina Johnson.
Yes.
Sam Neal,
Yes.
David Schrader,
Yes.
Dan Boltner,
Yes.
Craig Wortman,
Yes.
Mike Higgins,
Yes.
Fred Yant.
Yes, the motion carries. Moves on to our next item, the action items. First up is resolution number 9345, the 24-25 adoption of budget and certification of tax levy. Okay, can I get a motion on this? Moved by Mike,
Second.
second by Sam. Comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Lori Holland.
Yes.
Diana Johnson.
Yes.
Tina Johnson.
Yes.
Sam Neal,
Yes.
David Schrader,
Yes.
Dan Boltner,
Yes.
Craig Wortman,
Yes.
Mike Higgins,
Yes.
Fred Yant.
Yes, and the motion carries. Resolution 9346, the 24-27 Future Ready Library Plan. Can I get a motion on this, please?
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
David, second by Diana. Comments or questions? Tina?
In there, it says like investing in new furniture and things like that. I just was seeking clarification on where did those resources come from?
Sure.
Yeah, well, I don't remember the fund number.
The common school.
There you go. That's the one.
Okay, thank you.
set aside specifically for library resource.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, I thought so. Thank
Can't,
you.
can't use it anywhere else.
Libraries have their own piggy bank. Yes.
Thank
All
you.
right. Any other comments, questions? Roll call vote, please.
Lori Holland.
Yes.
Diana Johnson.
Yes.
Tina Johnson.
Yes.
Sam Alwine.
Yes.
David Schrader.
Yes.
Dan Boltner.
Yes.
Craig Wortman.
Yes.
Mike Higgins.
Yes.
Fred Yant.
Yes, and motion carries. Next up, resolution 9347, nutrition services condenser unit replacement and relocation project. And get a motion. Motion by Mike, second by Dan. Comments or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Lori Holland.
Yes.
Diana Johnson.
Yes.
Tina Johnson.
Yes.
Sam Alwine.
Yes.
David Schrader.
Yes.
Dan Boltner.
Yes.
Craig Wortman.
Yes.
Mike Higgins.
Yes.
Fred Yant.
Yes, and the motion carries. Last item tonight, resolution 9348, the 24-27 strategic plan. Can I get a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Craig, second by Sam. Comments or questions, Lori?
Should there be an attachment with that?
Well, it was there is the same attachment would be up in the strategic discussion with the strategic.
Okay, I just wasn't sure with the, with the discussion, there was a lot of extra stuff in there, so is that really, I mean, is that what everything is going, do you know what I'm saying, like, or is it more of? No.
So I guess I would look to, Jared, would there have been more, in this, but it would be the same attachments that were in the strategic discussion?
Yes.
Everything from the discussion or specific? It wouldn't be all of those attachments,
The
right?
resolution reads as presented to the planning committee.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, so, okay, I just wanted to be
Yes.
sure that.
Tina?
So my question related to that, it would be helpful if there was specific attachment in here, so then I know exactly, what we're looking at. So my question is, I know we have the document from earlier that was under strategic plan, so we've got that. But then in this resolution, it says approve the 24-27 strategic plan as presented to the planning committee in October of 2024. So we needed to go back to the planning committee, and under discussion, it's not labeled strategic plan, but under discussion is the different strategic plan documents. And there's like the student survey in there and all of those things. But I believe in there, it says that those are a draft. And so, like, what came out of that, like, I don't know exactly what I'm voting on.
I think we should reword them.
So I don't think it needs to be built, it needs to be delayed or reworded, or.
I think we can, in this case, we can, we can reword the resolution. Simply, if you're voting on the mission, the vision, there are priorities, all the way through the planning activities. Not the other that you heard tonight with our marketing strategies from Swan. It's essentially the piece that you have before you at the table. Okay, that Jason had divided. So, that is what you're approving. You're not approving of the marketing material. Or the survey questions. Or the survey questions. You're committing to, and approving the plan. Okay, we will continue to come back, with more advised information, planning, the marketing pieces and for the survey stuff. We're just talking about the plan all the way through, the priority areas and the goals within the priorities.
I just wanted to be sure that when anyone wants, they see that we found it on a used to do and it'd be a lot of work to figure out what that actually is. So I didn't know if we could attach it that way.
We certainly can.
To be
We
more.
certainly can.
We can take this attachment that is up.
Exactly, just that would be
Yeah,
great.
so.
And then can I get a motion? I'm going to rephrase the resolution to say, be it resolved that the Watertown Unified School District Board of Education approve the WSD 24-27 strategic plan including the mission, vision, priority areas, and goals as presented to the Watertown Unified School District Board of Education in October of '24.
I move to amend as you had.
Okay, so who is first to motion?
Craig, motion to amend, Sam seconded the motion. Did you understand what we did? I'm looking at Tina and Laura.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to make sure.
And then as part of that, we would take the,
This document.
this document, which is listed above as Watertown Unified, Watertown USDSP strategies, and then attach that as well
The resolution.
to the.
Because this one is different than planned,
Yes.
so that's where I was gonna be
Exactly.
really kind of confusing.
The Jason Goldberg.
Yes, I don't, this is what we.
But this is the
asked for.
improvement, yeah, all of the asks that we have
Yes,
are in here.
because this is much easier to follow.
Yeah.
But for clarification's sake.
Yes,
Yes.
this one I think is the one.
All right, so we've got that amended motion. Can we get a roll call on the amendment? Wait, comment, question on the amendment first. Anyone?
Where are you gonna put the mission? Is there a separate document that you're attaching to that? In here, this one, because that should be attached in there, if there's gonna be a second piece, you can just put in there quickly.
We can also bring. Why don't we bring down?
I'm just going based on Laura's question.
Yeah, no, it's not, it's all these pieces, we got them, it's just putting them all together.
Brochure.
Around the BOE. So let's go with the Watertown Strategic Plan. Brochure strategies as well
It doesn't have to be, yeah.
as attached.
I mean, you don't have to reword the amendment, you just have to attach.
Yeah, those include both of those.
Friendly amendment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Although that does not contain the definitions for the pillars, I don't know if that's.
It does on the inside, remember there's.
Oh, that's right, it's got a flip side to it, yeah, you're right.
All right. So. The amendment as stated. As on. We have, I get a roll call with these two attachments in place.
Lori Holland?
Yes.
Diana Johnson?
Yes.
Tina Johnson?
Yes.
Sam O'Neill?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Dan Bolton?
Yes.
Craig Morgan?
Yes.
Lee Higgins?
Yes.
Fred Young?
Yes. So we have the amended motion. Now can we get a roll call vote on 9347 with the amended language? 9348 with the amended language.
Lori Holland? Diana Johnson? Tina Johnson? Sam O'Neill?
Yes.
David Schrader? Dan Bolton? Craig Morgan?
Yes.
Mike Higgins?
Yes.
Fred Young?
Yeah, it's the motion carries. Right. Future agenda topics. Night, folks. Here, nothing. This will go to our two public comment sections. Again, as before, if we find a place for comments, please come to the podium, state your name and address for record. Keep your comments. Thank you.
Couple of members who were very adamant that there are only two genders. And that is scientifically not accurate. And so I just want to give you a little bit of information about that. Because I think science is really interesting, and humans are really interesting. And also, as you all are working on the policies, these are real kids that we have in our schools, so I just want you to have the full info. So, again, there's lots of big 20-page article, which might big 20-page journal articles that I did not copy for you. Although if you need some light reading to put you to sleep, let me know. I would like you to think about all the natural redheads you have ever met, including my friend Karen. There is just under 2% of the human population that's a natural redhead. Just under 2% of the human population is born intersex. So you all heard the acronym LGBTQIA. Intersex is the I in LGBTQIA. So intersex people are born actually like with a really wide variety of conditions that make them biologically not clearly male or female. Sometimes folks have ambiguous genitalia, sometimes their chromosomes, contrary to a previous speaker, are ambiguous. Some folks are born with XYY chromosomes or XXY chromosomes. A lot of folks don't ever know that they're intersex, or they don't know until they hit puberty, and they don't hit puberty like everybody else, so they don't know until they decide they want to have kids. But I just, again, and we're working together to create policies that will impact kids. I'm in a district with about 3,000 kids, and I went and I looked at last year's enrollment, which I think was like 3,200. That's about 50 kids, K-12, statistically, that are intersex. So as you're developing policies, and again, some folks are very set on definitions and frankly, some rigidity. I just want to make sure that folks are acting in good faith. So that's all the info that I have to share. Thank you for your time. As always, thank you for meeting. And I think y'all might get out before 8, which is kind of a miracle.
Thank you much. Anyone else like to speak tonight?
Right, my name is Jim Drizzler. I live in North Church Street here in Watertown. It would be super duper brief. I just have want to follow up a little bit on the last policy committee meeting. Different than what Wendy just said, just a couple things. One, from what I gleaned from the last policy committee meeting right now concerning like the transgender support plan policy that we're following right now, we're following policy A, which was written by Dr. Burke. And with a directive that parents get communication from the staff. So it's kind of a combination of policy A and policy B. That's what we're following right now. I notice that we're doing a very good job taking our time and trying to formulate a policy that everybody approves of. What that says to me is what we have right now is working, and it's working well because we're not trying to get something else through super duper quickly. My question becomes this: why, when we have someone who is as qualified and educated as Dr. Burke, and we have folks like on staff, legal counsel and things like that that have approved using the policy that we currently have in place, why are we wasting time and effort giving Sam more time with counsel to produce a new policy when what we already have seems like it's working? Or when there's another policy already on the docket, policy B, that could be voted on that more or less than what we're already doing now. Why are we trying to spend more time and effort and resources to create another policy? Doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense to me. In addition, a comment was made in that policy committee meeting where Sam said that he had consulted with some people in the know. I feel like we should at least know who those folks are, because if policy is going to be written and sent through in-house legal counsel and presented to the board to then maybe become policy that, affects our children, we should probably know whose hands are in the cookie jar, like all of the hands. I think that's really, really important. So, that's all I really got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Name is David Byrne, and I live in Margaretstown. I did want to speak a little bit about the something that is of concern to me, which is the influence of Moms for Liberty on the school board. It does appear that some of you are affiliated with this particular group, and I do want to say a few things about them, because I've been following them for a long time, and I'm fairly familiar with what their purpose is. And their purpose is to poison public opinion against our schools, our school teachers, and really anyone else that shows up in opposition to them. It is not a parent's child support group. Is first and foremost a political group funded by billionaires and dark money. The emphasis on transgender children, teenagers, and their family, aside from being weird, has a political purpose. It energizes a community. For the 25 years I've been in Watertown, I've seen the school repeatedly handle transgender children flawlessly, working with families and working with the professionals at the school. My concern is the list of targets that are to come, because next on the list is the greater LGTB community. After that comes the book banning. After that is the effort to promote the ridiculous lie of critical race theory. This is what we have to look forward to, including passive attacks against children of immigrants and other children of color. And there will be individual attacks against teachers if they are listened to. Locally, there was an attempt to dox a local teacher at a group school. The printing of the individual's name and contact information. For reasons I'm not sure of, it didn't seem to go anywhere. The principal of the school is a strong individual. I have a hunch that it was squelched by her. I don't think it's the last effort. Summer before last, I stood with two little kids at Riverside Park, making silly jokes about neo-Nazis with armed weapons.
Sir, could you fade up, please?
Okay. Moms for Liberty played a role in inviting them here. It wasn't direct. They saturated their social media with inflammatory, distorted information about the Pride event. And as a consequence, many of their followers, many of whom are Nazis, came to Watertown. I don't want this for my community, and I think you're obligated to reject the Moms for Liberty agenda. You can listen to them. I don't think you have to pay attention to it. It's going to be destructive as hell for us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments or questions tonight?
Hi, I'm Linda O'Neill from Watertown. I've worked on the school for 14 years. I'm a member of Moms for Liberty. Guess what? Everything I just heard is ridiculous. I've heard the group Moms for Liberty mentioned several times tonight and over the past several months. I find it ironic that those mentioning this group and denigrating me and those moms are the same people who have the group of drag queens called the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence provide security at their events with children present. Just recently, one of the male representatives of the group Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence was convicted in Wisconsin for count after count after count of child sexual exploitation, videos, recordings, etc., and possession of child pornography, and convicted in federal court for distribution of child pornography. Furthermore, I have heard the people citing Moms for Liberty as a hate group based on the word of the Southern Poverty Law Center. That should sound familiar to you. As you may recall from the discussion on Panorama, Southern Poverty Law Center is the radical activist group that provides indoctrination tools under the pretense of educational supplements to educators. Things like children's books and lessons on how to be a left-wing activist for children as young as 3 years old. If you don't believe me, come talk to me. I can provide you with the proof. And they provide lessons for children on how to dismantle white supremacy for children in this district. How to dismantle white supremacy and to obsess on their gender and identity. And regarding the Moms for Liberty book banning accusations, this takes the cake. We give children books that are age appropriate. The book banning, I challenge you to go to the website, write it down for anyone who wants to attack. Write it down, courageisahabit.org, and scroll down to the vulgar books tab. You won't want these accusations of book banning to be challenged in public. If I keep hearing accusations of book banning, I will have to challenge those. May it suffice to say that books for kids with graphic sex images and language, and books that reference actual pornography production headquarters, and that give the website address of those headquarters to the reader, are par for the course of the books that Moms for Liberty takes issue with. Make no mistake, this is what is being challenged as book banning. Moms for Liberty aren't scary. People who don't shelter children from pornography are scary.
Thank you. Any other speakers tonight?
Hi, I'm Chad Gary from 804 Linda Lane. Obviously, this is a really contentious topic. And what I had written down aside just to say something brief, and that is that in all the demands for respect that we hear, I perceive it's a little bit lopsided, and that there is a lack of respect that is shown for people that have a perspective that things should be neutral in the school district. Nobody's trying to take away anybody's rights. What some of us that are maybe espousing concerns about transgender policy are here to speak about is the concern that there are thousands of kids who have the right to be protected as well. They have the right to be sheltered from impositions. They have the right to feel secure in bathrooms and locker rooms. And I don't think that's too much to ask. I think it's that simple. I think it's also important to understand that if the community is paying for a public education, it should be one that is devoid of any political leanings. And it is very clear that this LGBTQ movement is left-leaning. I'm not saying that kids that have challenges with transgender issues should not be respected. They should. They should be loved. They were created equally in with the same intrinsic value that I was. So I'm not calling that into question. What I am saying is that those parents and children do not have rights that exceed those who are not suffering with the same issues. So what I would ask for is that there's some understanding that in order to gain respect, you must give respect. Respect is earned, and it must be earned continually. I would just encourage the policy committee to keep that in mind, that we're not just talking about whatever the number is, minority students that whose needs should be respected, but we're also talking about thousands of kids who have the right to feel safe in a bathroom, in a locker room, and should not have to be concerned that that's ever going to be infringed upon. They should also have the right to not have their speech compelled, to say things that they do not agree with. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions tonight? Do we have any online, Tyler?
No.
Seeing no one else, going once? All right, I'm gonna end the comment section for tonight. Thank you very much. One last item on the agenda, or not on the agenda, one item before we close tonight. As you all know, this position, president, is a lot of late nights and long phone calls. Since the board put its faith in me in this position, I've had some life changes. And as much as I would like, I can no longer give the time and effort required for this position. So effective of the end of tonight's meeting, I am stepping down as president of the WSD School Board. It is my intention to remain on the board for now. I do this with confidence that the newly appointed president, David Schrader, will do as good as of a job as I have, or likely better. I thank you all, those of you who have given me your support and guidance in this position over the last few months. Thank you. All right. I've got a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mike, second by Tina. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.